So, we're now in the month of June. And after a little bit of deliberation, I have decided to revisit the power rankings that I gave in my recent video. So, for now, let's get this thing started and get this power ranking started. All right, what's going on, guys? My name is Antonio, and welcome back to the All Around Sports Podcast. Today, I am revisiting my NFL power rankings of my top 10 teams entering the NFL season. Now, I did one about a month ago on the power rankings. I did one a few months ago, and I have a few views on a good amount of views on that one, so I decided to revisit it because I realized there was a little bit of things that I might have left out, and also relatively some teams I left out of the top 10. So I will be doing this one more time after this video, probably at some point in like August before the NFL season actually kicks off. So if you guys do enjoy this video, please be sure to hit that like button down below. I am trying to aim for at least 500 subscribers before the beginning of next NFL season. And we're trying to set the goal of hitting 500 subscribers before the first NFL season opener, which is September 5th against the Ravens and the Chiefs. So, if you guys enjoyed, please be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We are currently, as I am making this, at 272. So hopefully that number can rise up. So for now, let's get this ranking underway. Now, before we jump into the top 10, I wanted to throw out a few honorable mentions that I left just outside of the list. One of them, of course, being my team that I'm rocking right now, the Seattle Seahawks. I do believe they're going to be slightly better next year. I believe that Mike McDonald is going to help grow that defensive core into a dangerous unit. I mean, I'm not expecting playoffs, but if we can at least get a 9-8 record or 10-7, beat the Niners at least once, then it's a successful season for me. But now we move down to the next team I have in the honorable mentions, which is the Raiders. Now, last time I did not have the Raiders at any point in the honorable mentions, nor in the top 10. I'm putting them in this time because last season they had a top three defense at the least, in like scoring defense. They ended up beating Kansas City last year, so gotta take that into account. And then the next honorable mention is the Chicago Bears with rookie quarterback out of USC in Caleb Williams. And I do believe this team is going to be a sneaky type of team. I do believe they're going to be a sneaky caliber team. So, of course, a rookie may not make the playoffs immediately, but we'll see what happens. But next honorable mention is the Jacksonville Jaguars. I left them just outside because Trevor Lawrence was getting a lot of pressure handed his way during last season. He was injured sometimes and sometimes he wasn't. So we have to see what the new revamped offense can do for him. And then next up is the Atlanta Falcons. I left them just outside as well because we have not seen Kirk Cousins play in a game, but we do expect a lot of things from this Atlanta Falcons team. And then two more honorable mentions. The Bills, because I believe that they're still going to be relatively decent. I think Josh Allen is going to grow without Stephon Diggs, with Keon Coleman and some other guys in there. And then the last honorable mention, I had this team in the top 10 last time, which is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I left them just outside this time because even though Baker Mayfield is still there, it's still the NFC South and it's really a wide open division. It's really wide open. But for now, let's jump in to the top 10. Starting us off at number 10, you got America's biggest joke, which is, of course, the Dallas Cowboys. Now, the Cowboys, they have not made an NFC championship game since 1996, which the Dallas Mavericks, the basketball team for the Dallas Cowboys is actually fighting in the NBA playoffs right now. Anyways, I do expect the Cowboys to be slightly better than they were, even though they did lose a few key pieces in Tony Pollard, Tyron Smith, Jonathan Hankins to the Seattle Seahawks, and along with a few other guys, including Stephon Gilmore. But the Cowboys are still one of the toughest teams. I don't see them winning their division ahead of the Philadelphia Eagles because the Eagles are too stacked. I'll be jumping into them here a little later on into the list. But the Cowboys, the fact is they still got Dak Prescott, who performs well in December from September to October, November, and December. But when it hits January, that's when they get sweaty, and then all of a sudden, kaboom! They all of a sudden collapse, which is a great American tradition, as we all know. But anyways, that's why I have the Cowboys at number 10. At number 9, I left this team out last time. I'm putting them in this time. You got the Baltimore Ravens. Now, the Ravens, despite them losing a few key pieces in free agency, they were actually able to reload on a few weapons in free agency, which one of the most notable is Derrick Henry, of course, coming over from the Tennessee Titans, which that is going to be relatively interesting to see Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry working for the same team. So, I mean, this could be a really good situation for Lamar. Now, we did say this about him last year, but Devontae Walker, I believe is his name. He's a wide receiver from North Carolina. I've watched this guy a few times, and this rookie, Devontae Walker, is really, really decent. And if Lamar Jackson can form some chemistry with him early, like he did to Zay Flowers, then we could have a dangerous receiver corps because they got like Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews, and many other guys that are still there on their offense. It's just the defense now that there are questions of because their defensive coordinator left their team to go to Seattle to become the new head coach. So for that's why I have the Ravens at number 9. At number 8, I got the Green Bay Packers. Now, this Packers team, I don't think many of us expected to be in the playoffs last year, but they ended up making it and spanking lanking the heck out of the Dallas Cowboys. But also, they ended up losing in the divisional round to the 49ers, which has been their arch nemesis for a few years, especially when it comes playoff time. But this team I still see as a top 10 team because you add on Josh Jacobs, despite letting go of Aaron Jones to Minnesota Vikings. You still got Kool-Aid, you got Xavier McKinney now on that team. And you also got a load of new weapons on that roster. And I do like the safeties that they drafted. I do like the safeties they drafted because they're really decent, including Jonathan Ballard. So this team is going to be entirely different next year. New defensive coordinator, other than Joe Barry, which I know was a big problem for them last year. But that is why I have the Packers at number 8. At number 7, this team didn't even move an inch. You got the Miami Dolphins. Now, the Dolphins, they are looking pretty good right now, especially with the Bills demoted as they are because they lost a lot of weapons. But the Dolphins are really good because I like their picks of Chop Robinson and also along with Muhammad Kamara. Those two are really good, decent pass rushers, and they're going to cause a lot of chaos. But also, they have a really good offensive unit now in Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and also OBJ, which we might see the first ever three receiver core to get 1,000 receiving yards each. But of course, we will see what happens. But the Dolphins come in at number 7. Now, number 6. This team took 2 leaps up from the last time I had them on here. You got the San Francisco 49ers that lost in the Super Bowl again. But the 49ers, they lost a few key pieces of theirs, including Eric Armstead, Chase Young, Steve Wilks, which I believe he was fired because of the whole last little stretch of the Super Bowl when it was at 4th and 1. You cannot allow Mahomes to get past there, and he did. But the 49ers are still relatively decent, which lots of people are, including myself, are still questioning the draft pick that they made at number 1, which was Ricky Pearsall.
Huh? Huh? Huh?
But I mean, I didn't understand that at first, but I kind of do now. After Christian McCaffrey got his extension with the 49ers, this team is still going to be relatively decent, but it all depends on their health. Because the last 2 times that they've been Super Bowl runner ups, in 2013, they were the Super Bowl runner up to the Baltimore Ravens in that power outage game, which they almost came back and won. They went to the NFC Championship that following year and ended up losing to the Seattle Seahawks in probably the most memorable post-game conference that ever happened. But then a few years later in 2019, they ended up having a losing season because of a lot of injuries. You had Richard Sherman on that squad that was injured. You had Nick Bosa and Trent Williams. Trent Williams, if he's not healthy, this team's entirely different. So if he's healthy, I do see this team making another playoff push. But Kyle Shanahan needs to finish the job if he is at all going to stay with the 49ers, in my personal opinion. Y'all can have yours. But you can't go 3 Super Bowls. Remember, he made one with the as an offensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons. And then 2 he has made with the head as a head coach of the 49ers. They have each had 10-point leads. They've had 10-point leads. He's had 10-point leads each of those 3 times. If he loses one more, he's going to join 3 terrible head coaches in NFL history. Now I don't know the names, but it's a bad list that you do not want to be in if you're Kyle Shanahan. But the 49ers are at number 6. At number 5, now this team took a slight demote. They went down only 1. I got the Cincinnati Bengals. Now the Bengals are still relatively good, even though Joe Burrow was hurt last little bit throughout last year because he ended up suffering that wrist injury. I've had a fractured wrist myself, and I mean I've not had a strain in my wrist, but I know probably what pain he was feeling. But Joe Burrow is still one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the National Football League. He is still the only quarterback in the AFC that has ever beaten Mahomes out of the playoffs. And I do believe that the Bengals are going to be back, and they're going to be back with a purpose. So we'll see what happens, but Joe Burrow is still going to be back. He still has Jamar Chase. Their defense is still tough, but the Bengals I have at number 5. At number 4, I got the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, this team took a slight upwards toll from last time. Now, the Eagles, this team is still, they reloaded in the offseason, including getting Saquon Barkley, CJ Gardner Johnson back. You got Devin White and Bryce Huff with the team that they signed in free agency. And then they also ended up getting Cooper DeJean with the when he was in the draft, and also along with Quinton Mitchell and also Jeremiah Trotter Jr., which I think Jeremiah Trotter is going to be a steal because from his play style, he kind of reminds me of Bobby Wagner a little bit. Because Jeremiah Trotter, he was amazing throughout his time in Clemson. He had 13 total sacks, 4 interceptions, and 2 of them he returned for a touchdown. But this Eagles team is going to be better next year with the coordinator of Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore coming in for this team. But of course, we will wait and see what happens. But the Eagles come in at number 4. At number 3, I took this team down by 1, which was one of the surprises of last season, which is the Houston Texans, the new kings of Texas. But they went all out and probably more all in than the Dallas Cowboys, actually. As they went out there and got Stephon Diggs, Joe Mixon, and Danielle Hunter in free agency, and then also got a few other key pieces in the draft, including Cade Stover, which I think is a relatively good guy. They still got Dalton Schultz there, who is a monster. You still got Nico Collins. You still got Tank Dell. You still got Will Anderson Jr. This team is gonna be scary. This Texans team is gonna be scary. And I could see them contending in the AFC because this team is probably the most complete team in the AFC South because the Texans, CJ Stroud ain't messing around when it comes to the playoffs. Because ain't messing around when it comes to games because he can absolutely destroy an opposing defense. But we'll see what happens when they go into their to one of their week showdowns against the Chiefs, against Kansas City, which I'm really excited about to see these two sides go head to head. But now the Texans are at number 3. At number 2, this team was number 3 last time. You got the Detroit Lions. The Lions roared their way to the top of the NFC North last year and ended up making the NFC Championship for the first time in over 30 years and ended up winning their first playoff game also in 30 years, over 30 years. But the Lions, they are still dangerous. You got Terrion Arnold that came in with this team. You you got DJ Reader, which I don't entirely know why the Cincinnati Bengals let go of him in the first place.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
But anyways, I do believe the Lions are still going to be a relatively decent team. I still believe they are going to be relatively good. So we'll see what happens, but the Lions I see winning their division again, and that's why I have them at number 2. At number 1, probably no surprise here. You got the Seahawks. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It's of course Kansas City. I fooled y'all, didn't I? I fooled y'all. I was trying to catch you to see if you would fall for that. I'm not like Cowboy fans that are delusional all the time. I'm not like them. Now, Kansas City. Let me know in the comments if I fooled you. Let me know in the comments if I fooled you. But anyways, the Chiefs. They're the defending back-to-back Super Bowl champions. You got Patrick Mahomes that is still there. You got new weapons around him. You got Marquise Hollywood Brown. You got loads of guys, including Xavier Worthy and loads of other new guys on their roster, including Jared Wiley, which this team is still primed and ready from last year. They are seeking the thing that no team in the NFL has ever done, which is the three-peat. Now, I don't expect this to happen, but if it does, that would be amazing for Mahomes in his career to become the first NFL quarterback and the first NFL team in NFL history to pull off the three-peat, which we'll see what happens with, of course, Taylor Swift in the upper deck. But of course, we don't know what's going to happen with all the situations that's going on with Rashid Rice. We'll keep an eye on that situation rolls out. He's probably going to, at worst, be suspended throughout the entire regular season. At worst, at best, he would probably be suspended like maybe a half of the season, maybe like a top 11 games in my eyes. But I do believe the Kansas City Chiefs are still a top contender. I still believe they're a Super Bowl contender as everyone expects them to be. But we'll see what happens. But the Chiefs come in at number one. And to recap the list to all the people out there, the Chiefs were number one, Lions were number two, Texans number three, Eagles four, Bengals five, 49ers six, Dolphins seven, Packers eight, Ravens nine, and Cowboys at number 10. Let me know what team you guys think I might have left out of this time, and I'll be back with another revisit of this before the NFL season comes and it gets started. So I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please make sure to hit that like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Catch you all in the next one. Ciao for now.